Welcome into this edition of Inside Broncbuster Athletics. I'm Mike Pilosof. I know the World Series is over, and I don't even think this guy watches baseball, but he coaches baseball. And that's head coach Chris Finnegan joining us on the show. Always appreciate the time.
Thank you, buddy.
This show has been, what did I make the joke, 6 months in the making?
6 months in the making.
You know, it's crazy when you look, if you go on the website and you look at longest tenured coach, it's Chris Finnegan, baseball. Mm-hmm. How the hell did that happen?
I don't know. I think I took the plan of Bob Larson, Greg Greathouse, and Jim Boy Hash. We're just going to stay, and you're going to have to bury us here. I think I was lucky. I got started really early. At 25, I believe, I became a head coach. And, you know, when you're younger, you want to jump into the next level right away and just keep moving up. So I had a 3-year plan. After 3 years, I was like, "Woo, I'm not ready for that," let alone I wasn't really ready for what I was doing at the time. You know, just was very fortunate with the first couple years. And then you kind of settle into your role and you settle into who you are and, you know, what you want your program to be. And I just stayed. You know, I've been really, really lucky. I've just been really lucky. Couldn't have done it without Jim Boy, man.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you and Jim Boy together, that's
yeah.
It's Comedy Central for sure. To come here in 2005, basically as a second assistant, 2004, 2005.
Fall, yep.
So when you came here, you're the second assistant. I know briefly you had a stint as the first assistant, but you basically went from like the outhouse to the penthouse in a matter of weeks, basically,
hey,
right?
I'm going to tell you what, the bank account was just great. It was crazy. It was wild. You know, I still remember this. I still remember Coach Shirley giving me the interim tag, and I'm like, what? I had no idea what that meant. You know, I was like, what does that mean? He goes, well, you're going to be in charge, but, you know, we need to get everything situated. I'm like, okay. Then a week later, he calls me. He's like, hey, you ready? And I go, ready for what? He goes, you know, we're going to name you the head coach. I go, okay, great. You know, awesome. He goes, well, come see me tomorrow like at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, all right. Hangs up the phone, and I'm like, what do I do now? I had no idea. Like, what do I do? And so it was a long time, you know. Vic and Bob, gosh, they just kind of were with me the whole time, you know, for a long time until finally I settled down a little bit and got into more of the head coaching role of it. Still the young guy learning the ins and outs and what I need to do and how I need to act. You know, so it was great having those two around because they were really good at bringing me in and saying, hey, you know, that was awesome. You did a great job, but this over here we got to work with a little bit more. So I just right place, right time. Just really lucky.
You mentioned Bob Larson, who's now serving as the interim athletic director. What has that guy meant for you personally?
Just everything. You know, I mean, Bob has always been good with us when he needed to talk to us, and then when he needed to speak with us. And it's kind of like the old Dennis Perryman. When Dennis was here, you would see Dennis twice. Once he would come in your office and say, great job, and the other time he would shut the door and it was on. But then it was over with. But, you know, Bob, he wasn't like Dennis in ways, but there was some similarities with it. And for a young coach, it was great because you knew who Bob was. You knew who he was, where he'd come from, how long it took him to get to where he was, and some of the things he had gone through. So you knew when he was talking to you about situations, like you were going to listen.
You showed up for your first day as the head coach in green pants, is the way that Ashley Rudy describes this to me.
No. They were not green.
Well, what color?
They were not. So they decided all of a sudden we're having this press conference with like one of those fancy, film things over there, cameras, and I don't have a suit.
I was going to say, where is your suit?
I have a suit now, but so I think Vic was like, hey, Chris, you need to look nice. And I'm like, wow, okay. You're 25, so I threw a collared shirt on, a pair of khakis, and some Birkenstocks. I thought I looked nice. The mirror said I looked nice too, but
apparently it wasn't.
I walked in and everybody just went, Finny, gosh, dog it. So, but that's just how it was.
Anybody who knows you knows you're like the dad. I mean, you've got Cooper and Connor at home, and apparently from everything, all the reports that I get from either you or Ashley, I mean, those guys are hard to handle. But then again, look who their father is.
Yes.
So what do those two little guys mean to you?
They're awesome. I mean, it's just not Connor and Coop. I mean, it's Crystal too. I think every coach, people don't understand what we do. They're like, we'd love to be a coach. That would be awesome. But what they don't understand is your spouse sees everything you do. When you come home from a good or bad practice, good or bad games, good season, bad season, then you got to take your kids to flag football practice and then soccer practice, and then you have 4 games on the weekend and your kids are running around. They don't want to take naps, but you can't shut off with what you do. Your phone's going off and it's like, oh, I forgot this phone call. Let me take care of this real quick. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work for her. It's a lot of work for my boys. It's a lot of work for me. They're fun. They're crazy. They're sweet turds. They're beautiful. I love them to death. But man, they're a handful. But it's awesome. Like I don't want perfect children. I want them ornery. And it's just because, like this morning, at 6:33 this morning, they were wrestling. And it just kept going. And I love it. It's awesome.
So I'm going to name off some people. Obviously, you mentioned your wife, so I want you to give a quick, maybe synopsis, maybe that's not the right word, of what she does for your family. So we'll start with her first.
Everything. I mean, everybody uses the word like blessed and rock and stuff like that. I don't have a word for her because she's just everything. So if that's the word, everything is it. We can't do what we do without her, period.
Todd Tichenor, who was recently on this show, I know that you guys have a relationship. He's like Mr. Southwest Kansas as far as baseball. So what have you learned from him? And obviously he's an umpire. He's not a coach. He's not a player. But what have you learned? What have you taken away from what he's done, his journey from, little league umpire basically to now umping in the bigs?
Well, you can always say, every kid says, I want to make the big leagues or I want to do this. The sky's the limit. As hard as you work, you can accomplish your goals, if you keep working hard. Todd's in the big leagues now, but people don't remember when minor league baseball umpires went on strike. And I ran into Todd that evening. He had just gotten back that morning, and we were at our big endowment fundraiser. And we were playing the next day, so I kind of did my walk in, shake some hands, say hello to everybody, and I was walking out. He's like, hey, I'm like, what are you doing here? So long story short, he kind of gives me the runaround, and I'm like, hey man, you need a job? Like, I know somebody's looking for umpires. So, like the next weekend, he's back umpiring in junior college. So you can look at it, he goes from, doing literally high school, junior college to minor league baseball, back to junior college baseball, and then they get all the minor league baseball umpire stuff figured out, and then he starts working his way up. I mean, but he was at a time where it was like, and I'm sure he said it, but it was like, I can't do this very much longer, with the kids and everything like that. But just seeing him work from where he was to where he is now, and he hasn't changed a bit. He hasn't changed. He's the same old dude that he was when he was 12 years old, kicking around teepee in people's houses.
You won't admit to that, but
no, he won't.
I can definitely attest to that. Some of the coaches you've surrounded yourself over the years have been really good. One that I'm thinking of in particular is Coach Gilly, who's over at Cloud. You're not going to find better people than that. He and his wife. Obviously, you've had Jay Gundy around for a long time. What do those coaches mean? And we're not trying to leave Justin Mulvaney out. He's new. Right. I'm talking about guys that you've coached with over the last 15, 16 years.
Everything. I think you learn off of everybody too, And I'm not saying they probably learn more what not to do with me than what to do. But, I mean, I got really lucky there for a while where I was very fortunate to hire some very good people, very good baseball guys, and very good friends. I mean, you can go back to, like Mike Dudley and, Gilly and Jay. And, I mean, these are guys that, I still talk to all the time. I mean, Eric's like my little brother. We talk probably 4 or 5 times a week. And, I laugh sometimes because he starts talking like me. And I'm like, Eric, quit being me. Like, you're not me. Come on, man. But, it's just something I think you build a lot of relationships in this game, and not just in this game. It's whatever you do in life, and there's always going to be a small circle. I don't want a big circle. I just need one friend, maybe two, and that's it, and I'm okay.
What does it take to get this team to Grand Junction? I know that seems like a simple question as a concept, but it is. Region 6 baseball is, and I see it, doing the games on the radio. It's a challenge.
It is. I think, what people don't understand is there's so many conferences that want to base everything off of our conference and how we do things. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I think there's a lot of good things, and I still think there's some things that need to be tweaked. But what people don't understand is the Jayhawk Conference and Region 6, I think, have some of the unbelievable young coaches at the junior college level. And I can't speak for Florida. I can't speak for all of Texas and stuff like that. But we have some guys at this level in our conference right now that they have made my life miserable, honestly. But it's a great thing for the conference. They've done unbelievable, great things for their institution. But, man, it's tough. Once you start getting to that conference season, man, the word grind comes up. It is. And that's why I don't like playing midweek games once conference starts, basically, because I want us focused in on what we have in front of us, not something that counts, but our end goal, obviously, for everybody in our conference is to get to the big stage. But it's a lot of luck, too. It really is. It's a lot of luck, and you got to be playing well at the right time. And we've been close a couple times, and it's hard when you have good years and you wind up short. But it's tough. It's not the easiest thing in the world.
And you can't lose a game because, my goodness, it's like a matrix to try and get your way through that. So we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike.